Start here. Come on. It starts here. Get up. There you go, Prince. Come on. Too strong, baby. Come on. Come on.
This is Branch 1, IFBB Pro and Team MD member. About 9.5 weeks out from the Arnold, so I want to welcome everyone to Branch 1 week here at the MD website. Hope you guys enjoy it. Got a lot of things going on, especially coming up for the next year. My primary focus right now is getting ready for the 2011 Arnold Classic. Last year, I had the privilege of guest hosting at the Emerald Cup there in the spring, and my friend Mark Dugdale and his wife, they contacted me, and we had spent some time with them the previous year in Sweden, and got to become friends with him and his wife Christina, and just two great individuals and great people. And was filming a new DVD called Legacy, and it was about bodybuilding, but it's also about what your legacy as a man going to be, because as a man you have a great influence on your family, and especially if you have children, you have a huge influence on the people that they grow up to be. And so very few people know my story as a child growing up, and I had shared some of that with him when I was in Sweden with him. So he contacted me and asked if I'd be willing to come and speak to a prison and a group of prisoners there. His pastor also has a prison ministry, and so that was his connection with to get into the prison so we could speak to these guys. And I told him, of course I would, and I'd love to. And so I kind of went. I agreed to go and share my testimony and how I grew up as a kid, and how bodybuilding changed my life, and also how becoming a Christian changed my life for the better. And so we went to Monroe State Prison there outside of Seattle. Me and Mark and his pastor, and we walk in. Of course, they do a thorough security. They do a background check on you before you ever get there, and then you get there, and of course, the security is very tight. They pat you down, metal detect you, and go through a metal detector and all kinds of other stuff, and then they tell you about all the rules you got to follow when you're there. So once you get inside the prison, that door slams behind you, and man, that was not a good feeling. I'm walking through the cell blocks, and seeing these guys locked up like animals, man. And they have no freedom, man. They're told when they shower, they're told when they eat, they're told when they get to leave their cell, and majority of the day they spend locked up in a little bitty cell. So I think every young man needs to have that experience to see what it's like to be locked up, because there's always consequences to your actions, and if you do the wrong thing, there's a high likelihood you'll end up there. And for me, it was the first time I'd ever been in a prison, and thank God. And but it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I don't know. I hope it was sharing my story, my testimony with the prisoners there was going to be a good thing for them, but I know it was a good thing for me. So we get to where we're going to have the prison meeting in the gymnasium there. They actually had a really good set of weights and weight equipment there, and lifting weights was a privilege. So if they didn't have good conduct and good behavior, they couldn't lift weights. And I found out later just how important that was to them. They have a very limited amount of time when they can exercise, and they value weightlifting. The guys we spoke to tremendously. One guy had been locked up there for 21 years, and he told me, man, he said, lifting weights is all I got. He said, if they told me I couldn't lift weights, he goes, man, I would have no reason to continue on. He goes, that's all I have. And I said, man, this guy was, probably in his 40s, early 40s. And I said, man, when are you getting out? He said, I'm not. He goes, I'll die here. I'm thinking, man, that might be another 40, 50 years locked up in here, man. So I didn't ask him what he did, but I'm sure it was something pretty bad to justify a life sentence like that. But we spoke to a lot of guys, and I asked the guards, I said, what kind of guys are we dealing with here? He said, you'll be dealing with murderers, a lot of sex offenders, and just hearing the word sex offender, and pedophile, it automatically turned my stomach. Mark too, we looked at each other, and, I look at someone like that as the worst of the worst, who would hurt a child, and do unspeakable things to him. But, after talking to him, a lot of those guys, they deserve to be there. You could see it in their eyes. They were where they needed to be. Some of those guys, they were young guys. They've made stupid mistakes, and they'll get out in a couple of years, and good chance they'll take the right path and going to be productive citizens. So I share my testimony with them. I looked into the audience as I was giving my testimony, and I saw a couple of these guys that were, tattooed up, hard-looking guys, man. They were crying, had tears in their eyes. So I think I did reach some people with my personal story and my journey to get where I'm at. And, Mark shared his story, and I think it was a very good experience for myself. Usually a lot of years after the Arnold, the Olympia, I'll take a couple weeks off and kind of rest. This year I didn't. As soon as I touched down back in Dallas from the Olympia, I went to the gym and started training again. Obviously, I backed down the intensity and the weight a little bit, but I didn't take any time off. I kept on training. People say, well, what's the reason behind that? I just didn't want to take any time off, man. You get so close to your ultimate goal, and I didn't want to take any time off. And at this point in time, I think I feel much worse when I don't train. So I actually feel better physically and mentally when I do train, and I love to work out. So I didn't take any time off, and I think that might have helped me stay a little bit leaner too. I started preparing for this Arnold Classic, and when I sent George the pictures when I was 13, 14 weeks out, he commented that I was the leanest I'd ever been, being this far out. And my body weight was, pretty good too. So I think not taking any time off, and I've stayed pretty much on my diet, man. It's an off-season diet, but I didn't stray too much from the plan George gave me for the off-season. So I never do really, but I think the biggest thing was I didn't take any time off. So I'm starting from the best place I'd ever started from before, preparing for big contests. I get a lot of questions. Comparing me to Dorian Yates, and I get asked a lot if I've ever tried the 1 set to failure, per exercise style of training that he did. And yes, I did try that for a while. It worked, but quite frankly, it just wasn't enough for me. I mean, the workouts were so short, and they're super intense, but my workouts were already super intense. So I like to train, and I don't mind doing multiple sets, man. I don't mind taking 2 or 3 sets of an exercise to failure, and it works for me. So, if I stop exercise before I still have 2 or 3 reps left, then I just cheated myself. So, man, I push myself to failure on everything I do, no matter how many sets or exercises I do. So they can take all that pussy style of training and keep it to themselves. Stay tuned. Next episode is going to be arm training, biceps and triceps. I want to thank everyone for tuning in this week for Branch 1 week. And I want to thank my sponsors, Team Muscle Tech, Team MD, and of course Gasp. And God bless you, and I'll see you in 9.5 weeks.